What's happening, fellas? Chris the Bonafide Hustler coming to you live from the inside of my office. Anyways, today's video we're going to be talking about 10 items that I resold on eBay for over 60 bucks. Should be a wonderful show. Let me know if you can hear me correctly or clearly. Anyways, I'm the Bonafide Hustler. I reside in Austin, Texas. I flip stuff I find from garage sales, estate sales, yard sales, flea markets, pawn shops, swap meets, and big box stores. I put it on places like eBay, Amazon, Craigslist, my antique booth, and other consignment stores in town. But really, it's played against sports. That's where I flip with that stuff. Today, we're going to be talking more specifically eBay. And I did about 30 to about 45 minutes of prep work before this show, lining up these 10 items that I want to share with you guys. And I want to teach you about this stuff too. So this video might be, 45 minutes, an hour, but it's going to basically teach you these 10 things, to be on the lookout for these 10 things. And I really think if you listen to the content that you will be able to find some of this stuff. As always, if you're on this YouTube channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button for great garage selling content, thrift store content, everything reselling content, basically. And I definitely, do more of these videos. This is probably the third of kind of like this series where I show you 10 items that one of them was $50 or more. The other one I did was $100 or more. So this one is going to be $60 or more. I'm going to show you 10 items that I resold. Now these 10 items come from a very large picture bank that I have on one of my hard drives. And anytime that I resell, or anytime I put something on eBay, I take a lot of pictures of everything. Anytime you list on eBay, you should always be putting 12 pictures minimum. And it's just one of those things that allegedly helps you in the algorithm of eBay to rank your thing higher. So when the buyer comes into eBay and types in what they want to look for, that with the hopes that if you do a couple things correctly, or a series of things correctly, that your item will be kind of higher in the feed. So anyways, yeah, these are on eBay, and these are semi-old pictures, but they're still very good markets, and I really want to talk to you guys about this stuff right now. I really want to get through that entire hard drive, because there's so many pictures and so many things that I can teach you guys that I really think it's almost an injustice for me not to go over this kind of material. So we'll begin it with a screen share, and I'll show you what is going on. And if you have any remarks or questions, you can put it in the feed. It's probably a live video right now, but one day it'll just not be. So we'll go to a screen share right here. And I'm going to show you the first item. Hopefully you can see it. Now this, and we know this is still, it's not super recent, but it's relatively recent, because this is the floors in my garage. It's gym floors, and that was done, I believe, mid 2015, something like that. Anyway, so here is an item that I found at a Goodwill. So if you guys heard my introduction, I buy from thrift stores and garage sales, and most of the items that we're going to see today here on this video are items that I did source from either of those two kind of places. Okay, with one exception being a pawn shop, and you'll see that one here in a second as well. So this one I rescued it, right? Get it? It's a rescue truck. All right. So I rescued this thing from a Goodwill. There were two of these. I believe they were $6.99 a piece. Okay. Now these are very big. I don't want you to think that this is a small toy. It is a toy. Okay. First of all, it's a toy. It's not radio controlled or anything. But if you notice, and hopefully you can see my mouse pointers, there's some toggle switches right here. They kind of look like marbles, but these are actually switches up and down. And you can imagine what these switches do. One, they extend the ladder. Two, they extend it, farther, or no, this is the thing for the extension of the ladder right here, but these things make it go up, down, left, right. It makes it have sounds and cool lights for these are all lit up lights, but only if you want it to be. But you have to hit these switches, and it has a speaker in there, and it makes cool noises. So it's a very big kind of fire truck. I think this thing, if I remember correctly, measures out somewhere around that 34 to 36 range inches. So you can think of a yardstick on the floor, and this thing is basically as long. It's pretty long. So $6.99 a piece. And we can kind of see right here what it is, like these little toggle switches, and it's a fire truck. And as long as you have most of the stuff intact and it tests out pretty good, and that's one of the best things about buying from a thrift store is a lot of them will have one of those return guarantees, and Goodwill is one of those places that has that. At least here in this town, I think it's 14-day policy or something like that. So I ended up buying two of them, and this is the one that tested out almost all. It was all the way tested out. I mean, it totally was perfect. The other one, not so much. But the other one sold, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think it sold for like 60 and it was more of a local sale. And this one was the one that made it to eBay and it sold for $95. All right. So 95 bucks for a toy. It's big. It's awesome. It's not metal, which probably would have made it, you know, way more valuable, but it is plastic. It's just highly detailed. You know, if you're a kid and you get one of these things, I mean, you're going to be the coolest kid in the entire neighborhood. So it's very neat. Makes a ton of noises. And there's the toggle switches right there. So hopefully you can see this right now. I would hate to go through the entire show without you seeing what's going on. So hopefully you can see this. I want some of my friends in the feed. Let's get night required field. Let me know if I sound great and if you can see this, these pictures, because I'm doing mostly a slideshow on this video. Okay, so we're gonna go to item number 2. Like, I thought that was pretty good, and the funny thing is, it sold within a week. So the Tonka fire truck, 95 bucks. It was a Goodwill find for $6.99. Okay, so let's go to the next item. Now, this is kind of interesting because, you know, this is on the brink of when I really don't mess with these things. And by the brink, I mean, this is right around the last real era of Nico radio controlled stuff that I would really pull the trigger on outside of a FJ Cruiser, because you can take the bodies off those and sell them as crawler bodies. But most current day Nico stuff is worthless. Okay, so that's why I mean that this thing is right, it's on the cusp of basically being worthless, but still pulled the trigger on it. If memory serves me correct, it was also at a Goodwill. I believe this was around $5 or $6. It's a Nico Flashback, and the reason why it's getting to the cusp of like not what I want to be buying is because the tires weren't spongy. Like, that's one of the big things about good RC, is that if the tires are spongy, like that's already like indicative of decent quality. Especially when you're dealing with Tyco and you're dealing with Nico, like all their vintage things, they had really good rubber on them and they felt good. But all of their newer things and newer New Bright kind of stuff, yeah, newer Nico is just, it's just, if you were to put your hands on those tires, they wouldn't squish very much. So that's one of the ways you can kind of realize, like, okay, like this is probably one of the more current day ones. But what made me really look at this thing was this controller. The controller is definitely a little bit more retro though. So, and it's a controller that it's very reminiscent of early RC. Even planes had controllers like this back in the day, and still today they do. But so that was one of the things that was like, okay, that's cool. If you ever find controllers like this that have like, it looks like an extra gear going up or a turbo switch or something like that, and it's made by Nico or Tyco or something like that, likely the vehicle it's paired with is going to be worth some money, because that's kind of how like the old school days were. There was always like a super gear or something like that. But this was on the cusp of not being worth my time, but I still did it. So we can see right here, it was in a plastic bag. You know, it was all in, it had a charger and everything. But we can see the pictures here. It's in great condition, right? And I like to put the 9-volt in here, because when I flip the switch and we know that it's working, so if someone that buys this will know, like, okay, that's clearly transmitting a signal now. You can see the battery is hooked up into the car. The car worked perfect. And then it has a high-low switch on the back too, which is kind of cool, because you know, cars that were at the very cusp of being worthless, they wouldn't have this, or they would have this, but the next generation of Nico cars or New Bright cars, they don't have any of these switches. So that's a low gear and a high gear, which is exciting if you're a kid. You know, that's kind of a neat thing. The Flashback and these Nico things are likely also models that were shared with Radio Shack back in the day as well. It could have been rebranded as a different buggy, but you know, if it's Nico, you know, Nico and Tyco pretty much had the consumer level radio control market back in the day, and Radio Shack was like right beside them. I wouldn't say they were equal, but they were close. So anyway, you know, one of those things that I really think you guys should be looking for. I know a lot of people mess with certain things, like a niche, like only one thing, or it could be any. I see like 10K on the Bay here, which he's a major clothing reseller and everything like that. And the reason I'll make these shows is to highlight to you guys. I'm not saying to do it, but I'm highlighting to everyone out there that wants to make some extra money that there are a lot of ways to do it and a lot of items that you can do it with. And I hope that's my goal from these shows, is to show you guys that, you know, through my diversity of hustles, that anything's possible. You can find yourself in any garage sale, any yard sale, any thrift store, whatever. And if you got a broad spectrum of things to pick from in your head, then you know, like, it's game time, right? So anyway, that's why I make the videos. as always, like I started recently saying this 2 weeks ago, but if you enjoy this content, the number one thing you can do is just hit the like button. And it's a way of clapping. It's a way of applause for YouTube, because I can't like see you guys right now or anything like that, but I know you guys are watching. So if you enjoy the content, all you got to do is just hit the like button. It's like a really simple thing. Okay, let's go to, so that one right there sold for 60 bucks. This Nico Flashback sold for 60 bucks. It was like a $6 pickup at Goodwill. I mean, I just saw it in a bag, blah, 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 blah. It had the battery, had the charger. Like, I'm going to take a swing on that, especially coming from Goodwill with the 14-day return policy. I'm good with that. So, and it's electronic too. So like they're going to put it in a computer like Nico RC car. So if I bring it back and it's not working, they know like I'm not bringing back like a keyboard or something, right? Now, I say that because a keyboard is next. And this is interesting because not all keyboards are worth money, but these little vintage ones, especially Casio MT series, are very interesting, especially some of the ones with the cartridge capability on the side, ones that are a little bit more synth related. Keyboards are just interesting things that a lot, you know, when these newer, how do I say it, current day bands that want a very interesting little sound, they resort to certain things like this to get that sound. And so while this might be a late 80s or maybe early 90s keyboard, it's still, right? It's still sold. Let me think here. What did this one sell for? $89.99. And this, I believe, was a $10 pickup at a garage sale. Now, what sucks about a keyboard and all that kind of stuff is that you typically, you know, if you don't know that Smart Post exists with FedEx or anything like that, you're going to be paying a little bit for shipping, because anytime the dimension gets over what seems to be like 28 or so, you start to pay a little bit more money, right, for any dimension that's over 28. But as long as you use Smart Post, like Smart Post is pretty decent. I live in Austin, Texas. You know, a little bit biased to say that that shipping to me is like no big deal because I live in the center part of the country. But definitely look into your FedEx Smart Post options when you send in big things, because that can certainly save you, I mean, 5, 10, sometimes 20 bucks, like really quickly right there. And if you save 5, 10, 20 bucks, guess what? It goes right into your pocket and you can go hustle that money and like do things with it. But if you're not adamant on checking your shipping options, you are probably taxing yourself pretty nicely every year. So this is a Casio Tone MT68. This one sold for 90 bucks. It was found at a garage sale in East Austin. A lot of times, first of all, a lot of times when you find these, you're going to have to do one quick check, because the cord might not be there. In the case of this one, when I bought it, it wasn't there. And there's probably no C or D batteries there at the sale, so you can run it off that. So you have no idea. Like, you're just taking a blind gamble on these kind of things. But anyways, I did a little bit of prior research before buying this thing, and I saw that the market was, you know, at that time somewhere around the 60 to 120 mark. I was like, all right, I'd be okay shaking up in the middle of that thing. But before I buy the item, I'm making 100% sure all the keys have their switches on them, because underneath these little toggle switches are just tiny pieces of metal that you can still slide up and down, but it's nice to have this actual, you know, switch cover right there, making sure everything works. There's no stuck keys, and you definitely want to check every key here on the board to make sure nothing's stuck or dead. On the back right here, we have a very primitive type of you know, audio out setup, so it's not meaty or anything like that. But like I said, there's the battery compartment, and you know the people at the garage sale aren't going to have the batteries for that thing. So I luckily have batteries in my house, yes, and I also have, you know, a plethora of these cords that can go into these things, so I can test them. But typically, if you test them with a cord, the batteries will almost 100% work, but you want to check the battery compartment as well, just because you got to check for corrosion. And if you find corrosion on the battery terminals, apple cider vinegar is the easiest way to get it off. So you put apple cider vinegar on a Q-tip, you start rubbing it around there, and then take a paper towel, and about 30 seconds later, just wipe it all off. So it's pretty awesome. Anyway, let me go to the feed for 1 second. Thriller Gorilla Picker says, Chris, I sell it all. Variety is the best. That's right. And he's putting all kinds of emojis here with like a bicep and some claps and some punches. So cool. And Reseller Niche Podcast is in the house. What's up? Good to see you guys. Let's go into, oh, here we go. So 10K on the Bay has a really good, some insight. And while we go through his insight, I'll go back to that RC car. But his insight is, I sold 4 Tyco remote control items. It's amazing. They were all for over $80 a piece. So there you go, right there. Ochero Wicked has a really good one right here. I found a vintage Radio Shack Armatron for $1. Now, an Armatron is actually a robotic arm that has 2 joysticks. I actually have one in my house. I will never let go of it because I think it's the coolest thing ever. And while I was a kid, I was always playing with it in Radio Shack, and I always wanted one. My parents would never buy me one. It's a very noisy toy as well because it works with gears and all kinds of motors and stuff. But an Armatron is pretty sweet. A Mint Armatron is going for 50 plus these days, and they even have Super Armatrons. It's a robotic arm. That's all it is, and it picks up stuff. And it comes with 2 blue balls and 2 like little pedestals that you're supposed to move the balls to. It's kind of cool. It's way before NES, and it's just neat. So anyway, radio control stuff is really cool like that. This Casio thing, like I said, it sold for $89.99. It was a $10 buy at the garage sale. All right, let's go to something that's really exciting right here. And I don't want, so the people that are watching this right now, they'll be like, yeah, right, like I'm going to find this thing. Okay, so what I want to teach you here, guys, is a little different. Like I want to teach you the style of something to look for, okay? And these box cameras are very interesting types of styles to look for, especially the ones, most any box camera that unfolds like this is going to have what's called bellows. And bellows is that accordion looking thing that you see on the side when the thing comes out. See these bellows right here? These are the bellows, and the bellows might have wear and tear. It don't matter. A lot of people that buy these, I don't really think they're using them. A lot of people that buy these, I think, are going to use them for a movie prop, or they're going to be in a house as like a coffee table thing or something on a shelf. It's just neat as an accent to a very a person that's tied to history. It's some, how do I say it? So a person that's very historically like appreciative of things, right? Or appreciative of history. So they would have that. Someone that's a big reader might like to have this on a bookcase. Someone that's into photography in general might want to have this on their shelf, right, in the office. It's definitely a neat conversation piece. But I really doubt that people are truly using these things. Okay, so it's a box camera, right? And for the thing to come out, it has to have rails, right? It's on rails, and anytime you find these things, you're gonna be pressed with a couple issues, right? One of the issues is like, how the hell does this thing even open? So like that's the first thing you got to figure out. And they most have the same kind of thing. It's a snap mechanism that you can open it with. But if you're not looking around for a little snap piece, the thing to press, then it would be really hard to figure it out. The second thing is you're gonna have to figure out how this thing gets on the tracks and comes out. And there's a little crank screw thing right here. You can barely see it, right? It's a little dial. And once this thing is grabbing on, there's a little switch right here. It's hard to show you. Let me see if I can get a better picture. There's a little toggle switch right here that anchors it onto the rails. And then once you actually use that little screw thing, it's like a little, like a locomotive almost. Like it pulls the thing down the tracks and it extends the bellows. So that's pretty cool. But this is a Kodak Conley or something like that. It's a Conley camera. That's basically the keywords that I used for it. And it's really cool. And I'm taking pictures, yes, close up of the bellows, because you want people to know the condition of the bellows. And there's even like a tiny little tear right there, but you want people to see those things, right? Here's the tear, nothing crazy. Look at the side picture of this thing. You know, it's just interesting to think that we're walking around with iPhones and all this stuff and snapping pictures like nobody's business, but like it probably took an hour to rig a selfie with one of these, right? It probably took an hour just to get everything set up, and probably like 3 hours to get to the destination for a wedding photo because they had like really crappy cars back then. But you know what I'm talking about? Like we take things for granted because we have this stuff and all kinds of computing devices in our hands, like phones are basically camcorders, cameras, you know, a Rolodex. Like it's all this stuff that we used to play around with. It's all rolled into one device. So be thankful you're living in this time, because this is a wonderful time to live in. So there's the camera right there in its hole. I thought, you know, you want to see some really cool pictures of this thing. This camera, all right, this was a, let me make sure I remember this correctly. If I'm not mistaken, this was a $30 find at the garage sale, okay? If memory serves me right. And we had Raken there with me. I want to say Eric was with me, and Andrew N from the green room was with me as well. And we filmed, I think, this part, but the printer sold for insane money, which I don't want to say what it sold for, that I bought that day. Same garage sale. It was raining that day too, so I had to like run to my car with this camera in my hands, and it had some drops of water on it. but this one ended up selling for $129.99. So that's a really good find. I don't think it's because it was anything special. Okay. I think it's because it's just the style of the camera. All right. The style of the camera is very neat. It's a conversation piece. You don't have to test it. Yes, you do have to figure out and extend these things to get the bellows showing and everything. Outside of that, I don't even know how to look through this thing, and I don't care because I'm out to make that cheddar. So that is that camera. I'm going to go into the feed for 1 second here. Let me get this out of the way. Stop this video for a second. I'm back. Check out this $1 find I found at a bicycle swap meet last week. I am so proud of this awesome hat. It's just so cool. So yeah, that was $1. And I was like, man, this is going to do really good in my antique booth. But I'm not going to put it there because I like it a lot. So how you guys enjoying the show? Let me go into the feed for 1 second. If you have any remarks or questions, anything like that, let's get them answered. But we have Resell Niche Podcast saying that's an awesome piece. If it brings nostalgia, it sells. We have people talking to each other here in the feed. Nice sick hat, yo, is Bobby Moons. Yeah, so I love this hat. It's pretty cool. I like anything trucker style. I'm a trucker fanatic when it comes to hats. Trucker hats are typically hats that have a very abrupt kind of, you know, what they call a crown, right? It's a very high mesh crown, and it's mesh made out of foam, so it breathes well. And then the back is always perforated, so it's like super good for places like Austin, Texas, and a lot of places that get kind of hot. It's a very good looking hat too. Just trucker style hats. Here's another one right here. It's my ACL one. Trucker style hats are just awesome. Like they just look cool. They're super. They've always been in, and they're neat. They're just neat. I like them. So anytime I get a cool trucker hat, I will sport it. Okay, so let's go back into the broadcast right here. I gotta get you guys trained up, right? Okay, so hopefully you can see the camera we left on this one. The next is kind of interesting. Okay, this next item is I can't remember what I bought it for. I think I bought it, if everything serves me correct, it was like $5, I want to say. $5 at a garage sale, and there was still the invoice in here in this thing for like $140. And yes, we're seeing some booty on this show today. Like this is gonna be the show that's gonna get me removed off YouTube. No, so what is this, right? It's a Brazil butt lift. Duh, everyone should know that. Yeah, it's a Brazil butt lift. I think it's endorsed by Beachbody, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there you go. So Beachbody. And Beachbody is the company that's associated with P90X and all that kind of stuff. But Brazil butt lift. So if you guys are someone out there that needed a butt lift and didn't want to actually pay to get a butt lift, decided to buy this from me. But yeah, it was at a garage sale. It looked super complete. It was in a box, and it was in the actual box that it came with. How funny is that, right? You know, how many times do we go to a thrift store and we see one of those like 6-second ab machines, or we see ab dollies, or we see gazelles, or we see all these funny things from infomercials, but I've never seen an infomercial for this thing. But the concept is, how many times do people buy workout things and never use them? Well, I don't think it could be more clear at this garage sale when I pulled up and I found this thing in a box and it had the receipt in there. Like the person literally like just opened the box, looked at it, and never touched it again. That's what you call fitness dedication right there, huh? That's what I'm talking about. So I don't know what got in the way of that. Maybe it was some crazy event, or maybe there were some like super crazy snacks in the fridge, but clearly the person that bought this didn't want to use it. Like, it's just the funniest thing to find it completely untouched, to the point, guys, where the pencil hasn't even been touched or sharpened or anything. None of these booty straps or booty bands have been opened. They have ankle weights perfectly in their, thing right here. The one thing I didn't include with this in the picture, okay, and this sold really fast. The one thing I didn't include in this picture was the actual freaking invoice, all right? Because the invoice was there too. I couldn't believe it. So Brazil butt lift. Yes, on the Bonafide Hustlers channel, we're looking at butts today. This is unprecedented, let me tell you. So there's the booty band, different colors, different, strengths, or different types of resistance. Anytime you see a band in a gym, or a spree band or something like that, the different colors will always dictate different types of resistances, scissors, whatever. And then we have ankle weights. Here's the pencil, the infamous pencil that never got used. Oh my God. Passed the pencil test with Brazil butt lift. Well, clearly this person didn't even take the test because the pencil's not even sharpened. So anyway, that I thought was a pretty good find. $5 turned into $62.99. $62.99. One of the last garage sales of the day that day too. I remember this one because it was just like, oh, we're starving and we feel like hell, and then we still had like 2 or 3 more to go to in this section that was close to South Lamar Avenue in Austin, Texas. And this was there. So I remember we packed up the spaceship that day, and it's a term I give to my SUV, but we packed it up to the brim, and this thing was in there, man. We had some butts in that spaceship that day. Okay, so night required field. My friend here says, now I'm going to hit the like button. Yeah, hit the like button for booty. Let's do it. I'm all about it. So, all right. And we have another comment coming through. Superman847 says, I really enjoyed the Green Room show the other day, which is the one I did last Wednesday. Great inspiration and guidance for the current and aspiring entrepreneurs. So go check out that show. Yes, it was amazing. Rake and Profit was on it, and the College Picker, and we discussed health and wellness for entrepreneurs. Okay, so let's go to the next item right here. Now, I've always told on previous videos, well, not always, like I think it's once or twice, but to me, it sounds great to say always right now. So once or twice ago, I made a video highlighting Chrome, okay, as a brand. Like, you know how there's Timbuktu and there's North Face and Arc'teryx and all these other brands, Gregory and Loewe Alpine. Well, there's a brand called Chrome, okay? And Chrome is the way you can kind of tell if a bag is a Chrome bag is two ways. One is look for the little Pegasus logo. Two, look for the crazy buckles and stuff, okay? You'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. Yeah. So, or there's gonna be something like crazy logo on it or something like that. So here's usually some nice little buckle pieces that the Chrome thing has. Here's the Pegasus little guy right there. And then, hopefully you guys can see this picture, right? Yeah. So this is what's called a Chrome roll top backpack. Okay, it's not a messenger bag, because a messenger bag is typically, you can put messenger in there, but a messenger bag is truly one that kind of is a crossbody shoulder type bag. Most people that think of messenger bags are probably thinking of Timbuktu bags, right? Or Chrome bags. But Chrome is a brand that's really heavily bought by people that are messengers. I mean, you can put messenger in there. I just think it's just more like a backpack. So it's definitely, I think it's starting in Seattle, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. And they build really, really high quality bags. That's what's crazy about this brand, is like if you take a Timbuktu in the same price range and you hold it next to a Chrome in the same price range, like there's just no comparison. A Chrome bag is always super built to last, to the point where a dog completely clawed up the rear of this thing, and it's still, all right, it's still sold for, ooh, wait a minute. I think this was the bonus. I get what's going on here. This was the bonus one, right? So let me do one thing, because I always try to put a bonus item in my videos. Man, I was leading up to something, and I was going to surprise you guys with a price, but then I didn't have the price here on my sheet. So let me look it up real quick in my email. Chrome. This is called a Chrome Orlov. Search that in my Yahoo Mail, and it comes up with what it's sold for. Give me 1 second. There's like a bazillion windows open right now. All right, Chrome Orlov shipping label created. It cost me $11 to ship this thing. It sold for $101.99. Okay, so we can kind of figure that's the Chrome Orlov right there. Now, what's interesting about the Chrome series bags is they make messenger bags which sell for right around 40 to 80, and then they have backpacks, and especially if you're lucky to find a backpack that's roll top, meaning the top rolls over, which is the most water resistant way to really seal something. If you take a look at most kayak bags, or what they call dry bags and stuff, they almost always roll tops. Like, so a roll top is very, very important when you want to block out water. And if you're a messenger and you're taking around very important documents or even electronic devices from point A to point B, and it starts raining in the city, you got to make sure that that stuff doesn't get wet. So what does the interior of this bag even look like? This thing looks like it's ready for freaking Operation Iraqi Freedom, right? But it's not. Like, this is a civilian type bag for messengers. This is not an Army rated issue bag or anything like that. Even with that dog stuff right there, the dog completely ripped it to pieces. But sold for $101.99. If I'm not mistaken, this was a Goodwill find for like $11 or something like that. We have embossed, stamped Chrome pieces right here inside of the bag. Look at that. It has rubberized inside, so there's no way water is getting in this thing. And if you're like, okay, well, what about these outside, pockets and stuff? So we got weather stripping on that zipper right there. You open the zipper, bam, more waterproof stuff. So you can kind of see the quality that I'm talking about. This thing was like super high grade canvas. Honestly, if they were to paint this thing tan, if they were supposed to be tan fabric and look like this, I would honestly have thought that this could have been a CC Filson bag or something like that, because the weight of it, everything about it, this bag is built to last. It's a terrific company, and I wouldn't say super hard to find, because I found a chrome bag like 4 months ago again. That one sold for like 60. It was a really beat up messenger bag, but still, it was like $3 at a garage sale. So thought it was pretty cool, right? You guys got to learn, and this is the Pegasus logo right there, and a little horse, and it's in the red background. So thought it was pretty cool. Best bike messenger bags ever is what Charlie Favela is saying, and yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. I have Timbuktu bags. I have a lot of backpacks. I have backpacks for everything possible. I've always wanted to keep a good chrome backpack, but it's tough when they sell for such good money. I start thinking, like, if I keep it, then I'm basically paying $102 for this one. I thought about keeping it. My wife was like, please don't keep that thing. I really thought about it, though. I really wanted it, but I didn't want it $102. I didn't $102 profit, or no, $102 sales price, want it that bad. So anyway, that's the chrome bag right there. Now let's talk about this. This is awesome. Now, I bought this for $40 at a pawn shop. Question to the feed right now: if you're at a pawn shop and this is $40, would you even look at this thing? Would you look twice? Would you be like, maybe? I believe, this was 40. It had just come out, and I had a decision to make that day. So, would you buy these at a pawn shop for $40? That's the question. And don't say yes only because I bought them. I clearly bought them, and I clearly resold them. But do you think you would buy these things for $40 just based on sight? What do you think? So I'm going to go into, you guys have an accurate look at the picture real quick. I want to read a couple responses that come through. I'm going to give you a couple more pictures too, so you guys can, oh, and someone's asking, what's the condition? The condition is good. It's very good, actually. So let me shorten down this page real quick so I can look at some comments. All right. So condition's good. Let's take a look at more of those conditions so you guys can make, like, you're walking into a pawn shop, right? And this is what you're seeing. All right. I take good pictures, so except for that one. But this one's, what do you think? See, I mean, bottom's pretty good. I took this picture after I wore these things for like a pretty decent amount of time. So yeah, I wore them for like a year. Not a whole lot, but yeah. So let's read some of these responses real quick. Don Wilson, probably not. Ochero Wicked, yes. Superman saying yes. Barry Worth, don't pay 40, just put them on and run. Okay, you could do that. Pawn shops have guns and knives, so I don't know how far I would get. Christian Saint Ong is saying the exotic skins seem to bring the cheddar. All right, so here's the answer. Surprise, surprise, I bought them. Ha ha. No. So we have right here rattlesnake boots, two-tone. This is they're two really good things going for three things. Four now. Thought of four things that are really, really going well for this boot. Five, actually. Now I've thought of a fifth one. So let's talk about these five things. One, it's two-tone. Okay, there's two tones going on here. We clearly have a light and a dark tone. That's great. Two, it's a solid brand. It's Tony Lama. Okay, Tony Lama's awesome. And by the way, while we go through these five things, take a guess what they sold for. Please, please, please take a guess what they sold for. And no, don't guess like $1,000, and don't guess $1 million, because it's not $1 million. It's not $1,000, but guess reasonably what they sold for. All right, so one is two-tone. Two, it's Tony Lama. Three, the stitching on the boot is multicolored. That's interesting, because a lot of times it'll be single color, but the actual stitching on the leather upper is multicolor. See where I'm pointing right here? You can see that there's some red thread, some green thread. So that's pretty much a big deal. And apparently the more stitching there is, like the more like stitch runs that there are, like the better the boot will typically be. So that was the third thing. The fourth thing is the bottoms look pretty good. Well, they were way better, and then I wore them, and then they still look pretty good. So that's good. And then the last thing is it's rattlesnake. So we got 5 things on the checklist. Like it's like the stars are aligning, the galaxies are, and this is it. This is the warp. This is the black hole to all the cheddar right here. This is it. Everything's lining up. It's a one-time event. The Mayans, would be very proud of me. So I pulled the trigger on it, right? Brought them home, sat in my closet for a year, I wore them. And then I decided one day, like, all the things that I don't touch within a year that much, I'm going to sell. So off went my Dr. Seuss Converse. I think those, I don't know if those sold yet. Off went these and a couple other random things that I really like wearing. And there you go. There's the code inside. So the final price of these when they sold on eBay, $212.49. $212.49. Now the funny thing is, if I had sold them the day I bought them, they probably would have been $250 or so. But you can see that Bonafide Hustler gets to wear awesome cowboy boots for a year for $38. Now I don't know if that was the best thing to do, but while I knew they were going to be worth super awesome money, like even after, and I was very careful with these things when I wore them. I made sure not to be there was no rain in the forecast. Made sure not to get into any kind of like tight spaces with it, like concert venues or anything like that. It was when I went out to bars that were like not super crowded or anything. So, and the reason I say that is because anytime you go to a bar, you risk, a lot of times you're stepping in sometimes liquid, or you can get something spilled on them. Someone can step on your shoe the wrong way. And you really don't want to do that to these things. So I'm very careful when I know that there's good resale on something that I actually presently own. I'm very careful with how I proceed with that. So I thought it was pretty good, $212.49. What's the 10K on the bay has a very good point. What's the ROI on my happiness? That's real good. Yeah, real talk. Every time I wore these things, everyone's like, holy crap, like someone showed up to the bar. It's just a great conversation piece. And the best part about this, I got to tell you, is not really walking with them, is when you sit and like you have like a really good drink and you prop your leg up kind of like triangular style, like across the top of your knee. And then it's just like, bam, like it doesn't matter what conversation is going on. The second you do that one move, that's it. It's like the center of the universe is here, guys. Like no one focused on anything else. So that was pretty cool. Yes, I think they were diamondback rattlesnakes, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So there's diamonds. You can see them on the thing. Thought it was a good thing. You guys have been awesome in the feed, by the way, and the people are guessing some great numbers. We have some 280s here as the guess. Someone's like, I bet the resale was 100 plus. 212.49, pretty good. All right, so we're learning things here, right? We're learning that you can, hustle two-tone boots, make sure all the, stars line up. So that's what's going on in my head when I'm pulling a $40 trigger on a pair of boots in a pawn shop that just came out. Yeah, some people would be like, well, why didn't you just wait? Yeah, if you wait, then you don't sometimes get it because they get sold. And I was like, holy crap, like I'm willing to risk, I'm willing to risk some money. And the money risked was really nothing, because even at terrible condition at $40, I could sell them for $40. Terrible condition. I mean, beat to hell. I could sell them in my booth for $40 or more. So I thought that was pretty neat. I wanted to share it with you guys. The reason why it was easy for me to let go of these is because these were size 13 and I wear 12. So anytime I had to wear these out in the field, out to bars, I had to wear like a hiker sock, like a really big, thick, like Thorlo freaking Sub-Zero, like hiker sock. And that kind of pissed me off. So anyway, that was like it was just like, I don't know, it was very loose. Yeah. Insert terrible joke right there. Okay. Let's go into this next find. If I'm not mistaken, this was like a $2 find at a garage sale. Okay. So what we have here is a radio controlled mini car, very small. You can see the controller. Okay. So your hand goes into the controller and your other hand goes on the wheel. So we see the controller. So you can kind of see the scale of the car, right? It's not a full scale car. I think if I'm not mistaken, this is a 1/16th. No, maybe 1/32, something like that. Anyway, it's a very small scale, low C buggy, electric too. So that's good. It means, charging this thing is not going to be super hard or anything. Yeah. So there is the car. It has a speed control, and then it has a battery pack, not a battery pack, but it has a place where the batteries go. You can see some Duracells in there. Like I said, remember what I said in the very beginning of this broadcast is, anything with really spongy tires is typically indicative of quality. Now, this is a current day radio controlled car, but if you were to put your fingers on these tires, they would be squishy and they'd be nice. Why? Because some people bring this to actual dirt places, like places with jumps, and that's what a true like radio controlled dirt tire kind of looks like. If you want to gain traction, you know, your tires can't be hard as rocks. They have to be able to give and be like real tires in the real world. So it's pretty cool. We got small little A arms here, small shocks, small ESC. You know, everything is super small, like everything, and it's just neat. And my dogs like really wanted to eat this thing and murder it, but I had to be real sure when I was testing it, like not just to make sure that didn't happen. So bottom of this thing, anytime that you deal with a radio controlled car, flipping it over is pretty essential to put in the picture because it tells a story. It tells a story of whether this thing was jumped, whether it was used on concrete or not. But you can tell in the story of this one, this was an indoor car, right? There's no scratch. There's like hardly any scratch marks on this thing. Look at the condition of this car. And yeah, I paid like nothing for this thing, like nothing. Um, I was so surprised, and I knew it was going to sell for good money. So we sold this one. I sold this one for $67, and garage sale fine was awesome. Powered right up, boom. Put four double A's, and you are good to go. So when you're dealing with radio controlled cars that are professional grade, okay, this is not consumer grade because you can't walk into a Target or a Walmart or a Ross or a Toys R Us and buy this car. You have to go to hobby stores to buy a car like this. I know it's a small car, but there are every market exists for small radio control cars. There's 132, 116th, there's 1/8, 1/5, 1/10. There's just so many scales, and the scales, you know, clearly a 1/5 would be very, very large, but they almost all have the same type of kind of controller, like this general style, and the car can be gigantic, it can be small. But if you start seeing these exposed pieces like shocks, ESC, and you can take the cover off with some pins and stuff, it's likely a hobby grade radio controlled car, which is good because a hobby grade radio controlled car is always, almost always, going to command good value on eBay on the resold market. So anyway, and that's what the body looks like, and the little pins go through there. All right, those are little body mounts go through here, and you can see the body mounts in some of those pictures. Now I'm really trying to dumb it down for a lot of people out there because there's some people that are like, I want to get into the RC game, but I'm kind of, you know, like I like how you explain things. So you can see that those little pins right there's little mounts right there go through the holes, and that's how you actually, you know, get the car body affixed on the car. And then you put little pins through it and it's staying there, and then you run the antenna through this last hole right here. So anytime that you have a professional grade radio control car, there usually be 5 holes on the body, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 5th one for the antenna. But some of the more current day ones that are transmitting on better frequencies will have a small internal antenna with nothing poking out of the car. So that's pretty much that. You know, $2 into 67, pretty good hustle in my book. I'd take it all day. And of course, the shipping was basically nothing. So, yeah, Superman 847 says, I'm still trying to learn more about RCs. There's so many hustles to learn about. I'm telling you, you're right. Scott Bowser saying, cheesehead in the house, it's cheddar time. That's right. It's cheddar weather all the time here at Bonafide Land. So Christian St. Ong saying, do you often see these hobby grade RC cars at yard sales in multiples with a pile of other parts or just standalone? It's a really good question. I'd say it's half and half. Typically when I find RC hobby grade cars at a yard sale, it'll be one of two things. One, it'll be a big lot of things like, you know, couple cars and the toolbox and everything that ever came with the hobby from back in the day that they were working on. They're just out of the hobby, or like, oh, son moved out of college, and so I just need to get rid of this stuff. So there's that happens, right? Where you get a couple of cars, and sometimes you get some what's called roller bodies, which are cars that are not complete, but they're like in a stage of being built. You might find inside the toolbox, you're going to find all kinds of stuff, typically more ESC units, electronic speed control units, and some tires and some tools. What I usually do is I take what would make the listing right, and I throw everything else in the trash. I throw everything else that is not worth value in the trash. All the tools, I don't care because I have my own set. I don't need anymore. So anyway, yeah, you can find it that way. That's half of the way, you know, reasons at a garage sale that I buy these things. The other half is a standalone car plus unit, or truck plus unit, or boat plus unit, and it's just sitting there, right? And that's it. There's sometimes no charger, sometimes there is, and that's the reason why I hold on to at least 5 distinct chargers that I've come across. I just have them in my house. So that's what you can look forward to. The best thing to do if you are new and you want to crack into radio control is, yes, this is going to sound so elementary, but buy super low. Don't be worried. And as long as you see the signs, like I can take the body off, I see what, I see the exposed shocks, I see the motor, I see the ESC unit, even if there's some broken pieces and it's real cheap, pull the trigger and do it. All right. Just pull the trigger and do it, because I've never gone saw. There's a funny thing, and this is what I've said for years. I have never, 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 ever gone without a profit on a radio controlled hustle. So with a bike one, I've lost a couple, here and there, nothing crazy. I've broken even, but on a radio controlled hustle, I've never lost money, never. So there you go. All right, let's take it into this next item right here, which was the very first Vulcan EB F25 complete that I put on eBay. Now this thing sold for $119.99. All right. And we've seen this on my videos, but I thought it was important because I saw it coming around the pictures, and it was right behind this the RC picture. And I was like, all right, so I'll bring it back into the video. We'll talk about one last time. But when I buy these things, I'm looking for a certain amount of stuff. So I'm looking for the ammo box, I'm looking for the tripod, I'm looking for the gun, and I'm looking for a belt. All right. So those are the things that need for it to be complete. Look at this sick ass picture I just took. Look at this sick picture, right? Like, that's awesome, right? But look at this one. That's like, dude, don't mess with this guy, man. Don't mess with him. So, yeah, that's the Vulcan EB F25. My brother just sold one of these like locally for 50 bucks. And we don't ever pop on these like really over 10 bucks at garage sales or anything like that. But this one right here in this picture, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was like $1 or $5. It was so cheap. And it had everything. So tripod, gun, all right, ammo box, and belt. And then go ahead and test it. And the way you test it, you put the 4D, 5D batteries, whatever it is. Underneath the belly right here is a little screw you got to take out. And then that's it. And then these are the pictures that made it on eBay and that made the thing sell for $119.99. These are the exact pictures I used. So pretty cool, right? Almost an indestructible type gun. I've come across one in my entire life that never worked. I can't remember what I did with it. Oh no, I donated it to my brother, and we spray painted it and we modded it and we turned it into a gun from the Alien movie. And we took it downtown during Halloween and we had a blast. So that's what I did with that one. So let's talk about the last item here, or maybe second to last item. I think this is it could be the last. Okay. Radio controlled things again. I'm telling you, I haven't gone sour on a deal. You can make some good money if you just start popping on certain things. What do we have here? We have a radio controlled Nitro motor. Now, Nitro means gas, okay? Not the gas that you go down the street and you're getting Exxon or Shell, but nitro gas, which is, that's a good question. I don't know if it's more alcohol content or what, but it's typically, it comes in different, not viscosities, but I guess weights or whatever, or alcohol contents. You can get 20, 40, 30, whatever. And it's like light bluish, right? And then if it spills on your skin, it's not a big deal, but then sometimes your skin will peel a little bit. So working with RC back in the day, a lot of it, like, yes, you spill fuel on you like all the time. So the ends of my fingers were always like, I don't know how you explain it. They weren't like, like when the person opened up the Ark in the Indiana Jones movie or anything like that, right? But they were definitely like rough, right? So here is the exact pictures that made it on eBay for the CV. It's an OS Max. I think it's a 0.15 CV power. And it's not even a CV power. The funny thing is that's just what the head says on it. The actual motor it is an OS Max 15. There you go, 15 CV blue gray. Brand new, all right? And the reason why I know it's brand new and unmounted is you just look at it. I mean, there's just no wear and tear on this thing, all right? Plus, we even have the attachment for the filter right here, a couple other things. And these things didn't even have to be here. Like, if it was just this in a plastic bag, I could have determined that this thing has not been used. You just have to look at the places where wear and tear would be, right? And you can just tell, like, typically the cooling head might have scratches, and that's what this is. It's a cooling head. Inside this thing is a piston. And a shaft and all that kind of stuff, just like a normal motor, and a connecting rod. So this is what the output shaft looks like. This brings the power into the wheels or whatever it's going to go. Not the wheels, but it goes into a drivetrain, which gets transferred into wheels. And this is, you can just tell this thing is unused. Like it's pretty obvious, right? Look at these pictures. I mean, this thing's cherry. So this is the top of the cooling head, and inside here goes a spark plug, a tiny little one. You don't have to have it, but anytime you screw in a spark plug, you start dealing with fuel issues and oil and all that kind of stuff. There would be residue here, and there's none on this picture. Plus the box is there, so I'm like, okay. I bought this one for 20 bucks at a garage sale. This one sold for $109.99. Okay, $109.99. Dude, things in a box already. Like how much better could that be? It's got a box. All I had to do was throw this thing into a padded poly, and I was done. So the funny thing is, the guy knew. He was like, "Oh, I spent some good money on that thing," and I was like, "Well, what do you want for it?" You know, he was like, "Well, I really would like to get 20," and that's when I paid 20 because I didn't want to be insulting and I didn't want to go crazy. Here's the price that it shows on it, like from when he bought it from at the store. I just realized this is on the show. $119.99. Now this next motor is not the motor, but this is a totally different motor. But $119.99. So, you know, the hobby of Nitro RC, which is, you can essentially, if I could boil it down and simplify it for you guys, there are two types of ways that a radio controlled car can go to from point A to point B. One is electricity, like using just actual electricity, batteries, ESC, electronic speed control, all that kind of stuff. The second way is by combustion and gas, which is nitro, all right, nitro fuel. And you have to have a motor, and it's noisy as hell, right? But it's cool. So if you find these motors at garage sales, a lot of times, and this is probably, I don't know, maybe the fourth time I've ever found like new motors, right? So like most of the times you're going to find used motors. And in fact, this last picture is a used motor that sold for like 30 bucks. So completely just roasted, sucked. It was just, yeah, terrible motor. Doesn't matter. Still picked it up for like 5 bucks, flipped it for 30. Not a huge deal. But this one was very interesting because this one had the box. I already know that the 1.5 means it's 0.15. Like it's just, big motors are like 2.5, 3.5, 4.0. They're big. Like, so this was a very small, reliable motor for a car or a truck. And yeah, we can just see that it's in perfect condition. So I just knew it. And I saw this price right here. I'm like, all right. And this is a great brand, OS Max. Like, look up the prices of OS Max stuff, and you're going to start seeing like motors that go on the side of planes, motors for trucks, and you're going to realize that the person that bought this thing for $109.99 probably got a great deal, and it's new. So, you know, even on the secondary market on eBay, a new motor, this was at the hobby store price, $119.95 on eBay. Who knows how much time passed by, maybe 2 years, 3 years, and the guy decided he didn't want to use it. Still sold for $109.99. There's nothing really that special about this motor, but it is pretty cool. So that's pretty much it. That does it for the show. I'm going to come back into the feed here for 1 second, say hi to you guys. Like I said, on YouTube, and I know my videos are a little bit on the longer side, but I do that for a reason. And I do that because I want to make sure that you guys are taught and you guys are prepared and you guys, you know, don't make any of that spoiled cheddar. We want real nice, fresh, sharp cheddar in our hands. We want real money, right? We don't want that like, oh, it didn't work, but I followed your rules, bona fide. So that's the reason why I feel as if it's my duty to train you guys and gals on really what to look for, right? Just because I show you a picture of a fire truck, like, yeah, sweet, I did the fire truck for 95 bucks and I bought it for 5 bucks. See you later. Let's go to the next item. And I know I'm going to get comments like that. Like, why can't you just wrap this thing up in like 10 minutes? The reason is it's behind the scenes. What goes on in my head has to be explained. And that way you can make some good money. So anyways, like I said on YouTube as well, I'm saying a lot of like I said, sorry, but the way that we clap here on YouTube is we hit the like button, okay? And make sure you get 1 second, dude. Someone hit the downvote button on me. Oh my God, I'm gonna kill you. Now, but yeah, if you just take a second, hit the like button, share the video if you want, and you know, I try to make this thing relatively diverse so that you guys can check it out. But yeah, the more likes I see on a video like this, the more I want to make more videos like this, right? The more you can learn. So that's awesome. Don't forget to check out thegreenroomuniversity.com. It's the second link down below. That's the big thing I'm affiliated with behind the scenes. Not affiliated with, that's my company, right? Along with 2 other resellers. And yeah, that should be it for the show. Don't forget to subscribe to the Bonafide Hustler on YouTube. It takes 1 second down below. Hit the bell to the side of the subscribe button, and you'll get notified of all my live videos when they come around. That is pretty much it. It is good to see you guys. I'll cap it off with the last comment of the day, or one of the best last comments of the day, because they're all good comments. But this one, Bobby Moon says, "The more you know." All right, I love that comment. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.